Michael, and welcome back to the Learning to Program using the Godot game engine. Alright, so in this video we're going to start a new game, and we're going to try and leverage some of the fundamentals that we've been learning about. And in the process we're going to pick up a couple new things, but what we're going to do is we're going to make a game called Program Mr. Godot. And let's see what the goal here is. So the goal will look something like this. We're going to have a little character on the screen, and that's Mr. Godot, and we're going to move him around on the screen, and the goal is going to be to get him down to this corner, and we're moving him using the arrow keys on my keyboard. Alright, so let's get started. We're going to make a new project, and we're going to call it Program Mr. Godot. Create folder, and create and edit. Alright, so we're going to switch into 2D mode because we're in a 2D game. I'm going to use my mouse wheel, and I can zoom out a little bit so I can see my whole viewport here. And Godot by default includes this icon, and we're going to drag it in, but first we need to make sure we make our root node. So I'm going to make just a node 2D, bring it in, and I'm going to rename it. I'm going to just call it main. There we go. That's that. Now, one thing you can do, since I didn't make this a generic node, I made it a 2D node. It can move around on me. So see there, I just moved my main node. That's not desirable. So what you can do is you can lock it down like that. That little lock icon means if I click on it, it won't even let me click on it, but if I select it, I can't move it around. So that can be helpful. Alright, so I've got that. Now all I need to do to add my icon to the game is click and drag and drop it into the scene. Alright, so now I have an icon in the scene, and if I play my game I'll have to save it. I'll just use the default main, and there we go. I see the icon in my game window. Very good. So now I want to move him, and to do that I need a script. So I'm going to go to my main node and add a script. I'm going to use all the defaults, hit create, and here we're going to learn something new. So we've used the ready function in the past, and the ready function runs one time when the scene starts. So if you need to, we were printing a message, and we start, in the guess my number, we created the random number. All those types of things goes in the ready function. But we're going to unlock this one, which is the process function. So to do that, it's commented out with this little hashtag. So if I remove that hashtag, this function will now run. And you notice I'm getting an error because I don't have any code. So I'm going to come down here to the end. I'm going to tab over to make sure that I'm in line, and I'm going to start writing my code. So we use the if statement in the guess my number program game, and that was used to branch code. So in here, let's try this real quick. First we're gonna get node icon. So that should get my icon right there, which is my picture. And I'm going to use a function called translate, and all that means, translate's another word for move. So this is going to move my icon, and it wants a vector 2, and a vector 2 is really just a let's see here, let's pull open paint. So vector 2, we have a coordinate system, and a vector 2 is, so this is x and this is y, right? And a vector is just a point in space, and it's an x and y value. So it's just a point on a 2D coordinate system. So if I wanted to describe this point right here versus this point over here, I would have two different x and y, and we can see that here under the node in the position. This has a position of an x and y of 699 and 316 for y, and if I move it back over here and I check that position, it's a different number. It's 105 or 150 and 109. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to translate this image using a vector. So to do a vector, all we do is type vector 2, and then we use the parentheses, and this is giving me help, telling me the first parameter is the x value, which is left to right, so that's this way, and the second parameter is the y, which is the up and down. Alright, so I'm going to move him to the right, so let's use a number like 10. And then the up and down, I don't want him to move at all up and down, so I'm going to use 0. I'm going to close my little parentheses because the first one goes to this vector one, the second one goes to this translate. Alright, so let's run this and see what happens. Now remember, this is in the process function right here. And it's going to make me select a default scene. Alright, there he goes, he's moving. So we've made an icon move. And the reason he's just keeps going is because he's in this process function, which is constantly running. So as our game runs, this is constantly running, and it doesn't stop until the game stops. So what we want to do is we want to branch the code. And what's the programming fundamental that we use to branch code? If you guess the if statement, you're correct. So we're going to use an if statement, and we're going to use another new concept, and this is a game concept. And so in Godot, we have access to the keyboard and mice and joysticks through something called the input class. And so this is the input class. So if I hit input and then I hit period, I get a bunch of functions I can use. So you can see there's some joystick stuff. I can set joystick vibrations. So if you have like a Xbox controller, you can make it vibrate. Like when you bump into a wall or something. I've got mouse positions and all kinds of stuff. And what we're interested in is a key pressed? Right? So the key I'm looking for is the key right. And you notice as I start typing key, all uppercase, there's a bunch of letters or a bunch of defined characters in here, and so these should represent all of the keyboard. So if I do right, then that should, what this statement says is if in the input class is the key pressed of the key right. Or another way to say that is if the key right is pressed, then this if statement will become true. And so now you see this is red and it's saying expected indented block, and what that means is I started a block here, right? So just like on a function, I had to shift over. On the if statement, when I have that colon, I need to shift over. So I'm going to shift over my translate function here, and everything looks good. So let's play this to see what happens. Alright, so now he's not moving, but if I press the keyboard right button, he moves, just like before when he moved without the button being pressed. Alright, so let's make one more statement. I'm just going to copy this whole thing. I'm going to paste it. Now notice if I'd put it here, I'd have some problems. For one, this would be not shifted over, and secondly, the only time this would run is if this was true, or if this was true. So I don't want that. I need to shift it over to the left a little bit. And you can shift entire blocks by selecting the multiple blocks, just like this, and then hitting tab key will move them right, and then hold down the shift button and hit tab again and it'll move them left. Alright, so now I've got these lined up. They're both if statements are lined up under my function, and both of these translate statements are lined up underneath their if statement. So this looks good. Now right here I need to change this because left and right are both going to do the same thing. Actually, left's not going to work at all because in both cases I'm looking for the right key. So let's change this to the left key. So left is going to do the same thing. So if I run this, both right and left make him move to the right. So that's not what I want. Now remember, in the coordinate system, right is positive for x and left is negative. So back over here this is 0, 0. So over here is negative x and over here is positive x. But if I want to move them in this direction, I need to subtract from X. So what I'm going to do here is add a negative sign to that 10, and now he should move to the left. This will make him move to the right. Now, I'm going to leave this as an exercise for you to figure out how to get the character to move down to this corner, or make buttons that you can press on the keyboard to get him to move down to this corner. Now, one thing to note that's a little bit interesting about Y is you'd think that going up and Y would be positive, but that's actually not true. This is 0, 0, and Y actually becomes higher as you go down. So if you want to make something go up, you actually subtract from Y, and then you add to go down. Alright, so I'm going to let you pause the video and try and get that to work, and then in just a minute we'll pick up and we'll make sure that you got there. Alright. Alright, welcome back. Hopefully you were able to get it going, but if not, I'm going to walk it through with you, and we'll get it working. So I've got left and right here, and up and down are going to work very similarly. So I'm just going to grab both of them, hit Control C to copy. I'm going to move down to where I want to put it, and I'm going to hit Control V and paste it. Now the two things I need to change both the buttons that I'm looking for. So I'm going to do up, and I'm also going to change down. So this would be the up button and down button. Now if I ran it like this, hitting up and down would actually make me move left and right, even though I'm hitting the up button and now I'm hitting the down button. So I need to change this vector, which is the direction I'm going to move, and change this from the X numbers to using the Y numbers, which are over here. So I'm going to use 10 and -10. Now, if you remember, Y, this is actually positive and this is negative. So in this case, this will actually be reverse of what I think. So I'm going to hit the up button and I'm going down. Now I'm hitting the down button and I'm going up. And that's not what I wanted. And so I need to reverse these signs so that I'm going to subtract from Y to go up, and I'm going to add to Y to go down. So now when I hit down, I go down. I hit up, I go up. If I hit right, I go right. And because these are separate if statements, if I push two buttons at once, they both execute at the same time. So I'm able to do diagonals. Alright, so that's it for this game. I hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you soon.